85 out there, it's dark so early. It's that warm, long days.
Still the same 24 hours, right?
Front door open.
It's kind of quiet.
Until you got here.
Yeah.
Good evening.
How you doing?
Terrific.
Those two. Straight down 24.
Yeah.
They're this way.
Yeah.
Legally, the other way too.
Crazy, crazy.
As long as I live in your 10 mile radius, I can see it again. It's pretty long today. Mayor Commissioner not having to work again this summer. I know. I know. I guess. You know, it's great.
No, I don't hear, I'm doing heating and cooling. I don't believe that much. So I get it taken, I start to clean up.
Kurt came to do my here, and he said, he's doing the air conditioning, John said, Dan, he goes, you know, you run your heat a lot more than you run your efficiency for work, and they did this year. I'm hoping.
You know, I have a hard time believing this place was 12 years old.
Well, it's my, John was saying, I think, years. I just not heard what this back in with it. I don't wonder a lot, but I know that I'm gonna have to. When I turn it on, the show, come on. I turn it on, cool, come on, baby. And it last night, I was like, okay. Lives around it.
Yeah.
And they go right through your.
I don't know.
Okay. Pretty much.
Even in the sun,
We don't use it for heat, I have a boiler system, and I just leave that set, touch it.
Yeah. I try my best.
Just, I mainly use it for air conditioning. We didn't use that much this year.
No, there was, just at night, if it, you know, when the sun goes down, here's the back of the house, it's all windows, and during the last year,
He's there.
still about 4 o'clock, it was cold.
Next one.
It's 7 o'clock, everybody. I'd like to call this meeting in order. We go right to service.
Front door open.
To the flag America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Yes, no problem.
Need a motion for approval of the agenda?
Make a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second approval of the agenda. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Police report?
You have a copy of the report in your packets.
Fire report.
So we had 4 fires last month, 1 structure fire, which was an assisted riding, 2 false alarms, and 1 down wire, which was the only fire in the village. And then 3 medicals.
County Commissioner. Planning Commission.
Nothing on the agenda.
DDA.
It wasn't a lot this month.
You got it, yeah, you got it.
Front door open.
We talked about,
Yeah, so, yeah, put the,
sign. So we are redoing the sign out. When you come into
oh yeah, the
Metamora
entrance sign
on
for
24th.
for the village.
Yep.
Right, yeah, and then also coming into the village, all 4 locations, it's on the, Victor's getting quotes, to put interchangeable signs, so we can swap them from each, north, south, east, west, a little bit, which will help. The other thing is the park, Edwards was hired to clean all the trails and widen them. I think they have 1 more day in there maybe, but they put a lot of wood chips, cleaned up a lot of stuff to make it very accessible through there. So everybody gets a chance, go in a non-motorized vehicle up there and take a look. I think that's it, just we have signs and, that, anything else you can think of? Jack?
Nope, that was the main thing is signs. And then what's nice is we're, the one on 24, Victor did some research. And it's actually, very historic. So it's actually, we're going to go work off of that one, and just kind of build it up, have like a solar light, so it lights it up. Instead of, we couldn't make out what the picture or whatever is, so
It was a tad
making it
faded
worse.
from my understanding.
Yeah, so.
Yeah, it's really faded.
That's why it's historic.
Yeah.
Thank you. Attorney's report.
Mine's on the agenda.
Council communications.
I have nothing to report. I just wanted, can I say something? As a follow-up to our last meeting, I still would like to bring up again about the memorial, being moved, whether it's to the park,
Where would the council like it moved? I need a little bit of direction on where they want it moved.
how do we go about doing that? I mean, who do we have to request it from? I mean, is the park under our jurisdiction that we could
Yes.
say it would move there? Okay.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's not that
Well,
big.
which part? I just need
We
some
only have
direction
one
on
right now, right?
It's the veteran.
Okay, this one.
Harbor.
Yes, the one that's right in the village, like where maybe the flower garden is,
Okay.
and there's a flag and
We'll
stuff.
try to go over there, maybe, would you mind coming over with me and we can
Absolutely.
walk over there and look at a good
Yeah,
place
we'd
for
like
it? Okay, thank you.
Anything else? We need approval of the consent agenda.
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Motion and second for the consent agenda. All in favor, say aye. Opposed? Public time.
So, you brought up the memorial. I wrote a quick little complaint about the memorial, because I was really offended to see that the garbage enclosure be built with this right there, okay? And somebody said it's quite a ways away, and you know. I don't know why it takes so long to get basic things done around here, but it does. I want to see this done like within a very short time here, because it is offensive. And so I took a tape measure out, because nobody ever believes me that I can measure things, but it was a standard tape measure, you can do the same. 13 feet. 13 feet from the memorial to the garbage. And it also needs to be cleaned, all right? Michele, I was surprised to hear you say that we only have one park right now. We have had another park for 11 years and 2 months now. It was a park when it was purchased. It was purchased as a park. You can read the deeds. It was to be set aside for recreation. It is a park. And I am so tired of hearing people, and it's not just you, people in general not referring to that as a park. It is. And again, why do we not have signs 11 years and 2 months? So, and by the way, that memorial is a lot of work for people. They had to fundraise, they had to get it placed, and then you guys just keep moving it around. Find it a really good spot and put it there permanently. I would be super offended if it was one of my relatives' names on there. So I will pass around the pictures that go with the complaints this month. Tons of them as usual. I didn't have time to go through and total up what I'm seeing this year, but I think it's more than last year that I've recorded. Again, what I see is just kind of a sampling. It's when I go through. But, so I find it really odd. The deed to Harmer Park says it should not be used for parking. Mr. Denney says, well, we can't stop you from using it for parking when it's for recreational purposes, but then people are now parking recreational vehicles in there kind of regularly. How many times have I captured that this year? So how do you define it? And Mr. Denney wasn't here at the last meeting, but I brought up, what if someone wants to park an RV in there? What if someone wants to drive an RV truck in there and they block it up? But they're there for recreational purposes, but you guys have no guidelines. I also want to point out that at the last township meeting, Mr. Best, after the meeting, our township supervisor here, pointed out that his golf cart caught on fire. But yet, we have golf carts crammed into that little area. As far as I've asked repeatedly, do we have any fire extinguishers? Where are these things located? And we don't have them. It's just absolutely stupid, and if we had a fire marshal, it wouldn't be allowed. And by the way, just last night, I was driving home, coming down North Oak Street, and I see it's long. It's like an hour past the golf cart curfew. It is getting dark, and there's a woman sitting next to a young kid. I'm going to say 12 years old-ish, and he's driving a golf cart on the road with no lights, getting dark, completely illegal. But this stuff keeps going on, and we keep just not enforcing it. Again, I think the numbers are going to be much higher than last year, and I have no idea why you guys can't grasp that people parking on the sidewalk next to Metamora General is a problem. It is a problem. And it is dozens and dozens and dozens of times this year. I just saw another one this afternoon, didn't have time to document it. I get that they have, it sounds like they have a lease for deliveries. That does not include people just parking there wherever they want. And the police just drive right by it. I have seen them do it. And by the way, a municipal lawyer and his wife, I just saw them the other night, pass curfew on their golf cart out here again. People are not respecting the laws around here. And it is just disgusting to me. And I had this experience last week. I was out with a group of young adults with disabilities. And we went to a place that I had been dozens of times. And if you asked me before I went with this young man with a wheelchair, is this an accessible place? Well, yeah, they've got some ramps in places. And when we got there, and by the way, this is what I do all the time. I work with folks with disabilities for most of my professional life. We get there, and he's with a group of other young people. And I realized that for him to get in the building, we have to go all the way around to the side, and then we are in one area of the building. But the group goes up the stairs. He can't go up the stairs. We have to go outside and up 3 ramps to go to the other part of the building. By that point, his group is out the other side. These things matter. And I learn every day about disabilities and how to help people who have them. The difference between me and many of you up here is that I am willing to listen and learn and try to do better. But you guys don't get why this bothers me so much out here seeing vehicles, seeing a municipal lawyer drive in a golf cart with his wife driving on the sidewalk. You don't get why that is so offensive to me? Well, this is why, because every single day I am with folks who have these challenges. So maybe open your minds, learn it, and take the ADA classes that I recommended. Please, thank you.
That municipal lawyer was not me, by the way.
No, it was not you or anyone from your practice.
1213 Cow Road. I'd like to take a minute to talk about this upcoming November election, and particularly about the judicial races that don't get the attention that so many others do, and yet they're very, very important. Here in Lapeer County, we're going to be electing a new probate judge, as Justice Scott is aged out. The only candidate is Dennis McCarthy, who has his office right here in the village, and he will be a very good probate judge. But we have two contested races in the Michigan Supreme Court that are very important. In 2023, Justice McCormick retired, allowing the governor to appoint her replacement. The governor appointed a woman who has no judicial experience. In fact, ran in 2022 for the Michigan Supreme Court as the Democratic nominee, and was the only Democrat who lost statewide. And yet, although that was what happened in 22, the governor appointed her in 23. Thankfully, our Constitution requires her to run for the remaining 4 years, and we have an excellent candidate to replace her. And that's Judge Patrick O'Grady from Coldwater County. Judge O'Grady is a circuit court judge in Coldwater, been on the bench for 16 years, which is more than 8 times the judicial experience of the incumbent. He was also a Michigan State Trooper. He has a very good background and will be an excellent Michigan Supreme Court Justice. The other race is a full 8-year term. As Justice Viviano decided not to run for re-election. And again, we have a fine choice in Andrew Fink from Hillsdale County. Andrew graduated from Hillsdale College and the University of Michigan Law School. After law school, he enlisted in the United States Marine Corps to serve our country. After his tour of duty, he returned to Hillsdale County and practiced law there in many courts, including in front of the Michigan Supreme Court. In 2020, he was elected to the Michigan State House of Representatives, re-elected in 22, where he serves on the House Judiciary Committee. He certainly could have run for 3 more terms, I'm sure would have got elected, but he has stepped forward and is the nominee for the Michigan Supreme Court. He's a very bright individual. So I would recommend and ask you to vote for Andrew Fink and Patrick O'Grady for the Michigan Supreme Court on the November ballot. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other public comment?
Go ahead, I'll wait. Are you going? Okay. Am I it? Am I it?
Either one of you.
Oh, go ahead. Hey, some of your clients say, hey, go ahead, guy, you just go and do whatever you want.
Go ahead, Bill.
Oh, I know. May I approach? Well, okay, listen, I have the copies, should I send them to?
If you put them right here, I will pass them out
Okay.
over here. There you go. Yep.
What those are just copies of the dumpster corral that was approved by the council. We're just about done with it. We're still going to put some solar lights on the top of each 4x4, just to dress it up a little bit, so it looks more cohesive. So just letting you guys have a copy. Thank you for your approval. We're trying to go ahead and make it look good, and if we get some rain, I'm sure grass will grow eventually. So. I was told those are color photos, so hopefully I can have it. There's 10 or 100 voices.
There's enough, yeah, I know.
Those 4x4s, are they gonna cut those down?
Yes.
So that- okay.
Correct. But I was gonna try to do it today, but I figured I'd wait for a sighted individual.
You think?
Well, we've gone this far, I wanted to have them complete. So, anybody's, like I said, those are solid oak boards or improved fencing, so we try to make it look good, didn't interfere with any utilities or anything like that. So.
Anybody else?
Could you give me any information on the
Water main extension?
yeah,
Next on the list.
Yep. Mr. Denney's gonna talk about it.
okay.
Okay, we're done with public time, we'll go down to finished business and water main extension.
Just a quick history again, when the landfill settling group approached us many years ago, they said, we'll build it, you operate it forever. And when we had an expert crunch the numbers and put that into the program and ran it out for over time, every single road led to bankruptcy. So we said, can't do that. Then what they did was they came back and said, we'll tell you what, we'll build it, we'll operate it, you just give us water. And we'll have a nice big loop around here, goes all the way around the village and comes back in. And in order to do that, they needed some easements from private landowners. At least what they told us is, they told us that after a year or two, they could not get someone to approve the easements that they asked for. We asked them to tell us who that was, and maybe we could help with that, and they would never tell us what it was. Instead, they came back and said, tell you what, instead of doing a loop, we'll have just run a dead end out there. We'll hook in down near Jamestown, run a dead end out there. And when we looked at that, when our engineers looked at that, what we see in general is that it is a low volume dead end system. When the landfill group showed us their engineering numbers and what their projections were for volume, our engineers said they're way exaggerating how much volume was gonna go through that system. It was way over what we experienced in the village. And they came back again, lowered numbers somewhat, but we still think they're high. In the end, we don't think they're gonna get around the fact that it's a low volume dead end system. And in our experience, the water operators experience in the village, when you have dead end parts in the village, and we have some small ones, not long ones, it results in stagnant water, which we see as extra village risk. We do not have a lot of cushion for risk. Our village budget in the village is less than $200,000. So if a lot of us have read a lot about the Flint water crisis, and when that blew up and there was contamination in the water, they sued everyone in sight that had anything whatsoever to do with the water in their system. And we know, just a practical matter, if some problem happens with contamination out there, the village will absolutely be in the first line of people that get sued. And as a result, we said, look, we need some kind of a financial cushion that can weather the storm if in fact we get into a big fight. In fact, we told them they were concerned that we just have some big spin slush fund that we would use for every purpose imaginable. And we said, you know what? We're only gonna use it for this issues related to this water system and providing this water. And in fact, it would be our hope that not a dime would ever be spent out of that fund, ever. That it would just be a cushion that would build up so that if we got into a battle, that we could sustain ourselves and not go bankrupt to the point where we couldn't provide water to our own residents and couldn't provide water to the township residents that we're serving as well. The Environmental Protection Agency, the federal agency, has been organizing conference calls over the last 6 months or so. They scheduled another one that's going to be on this Wednesday. About 3 or 4 weeks ago, we had a conference call with about 8 to 10 different representatives of the settlement group. So the companies that were the polluters at the landfill, a lot of big companies, they had a representative from each one of them. And their concern was, we don't want you to just have a big fund there where you can do whatever you want to. And they talked about, well, can we set up an escrow fund, and what kind of restrictions would there be on it? And my understanding from them was that they were gonna come back with some sort of written proposal on what they would like to see in that escrow fund. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it for the village council. I'm gonna be very skeptical about that, because I told them, look, if you have a fund, an escrow fund that's set up in such a way that the only way we get to spend any money out of it is if we litigate for 2 years with the people who are holding on to the money, that does not give us any financial cushion. So I don't know what their proposal is going to be, and we're sort of waiting on that. I'm a little surprised that we didn't get something from them sooner. But I take this very seriously. Anytime we're offering, just as a good Samaritan, to do something for someone, but it puts us as a village at risk of going bankrupt and not being able to provide services for anybody, I take that really seriously. I may not be the most popular guy at those conference calls, and I don't care if I don't get any Christmas cards this Christmas. I will recommend to this village what I think protects the village. And, we expect to talk with them again on Wednesday. EPA has been trying to poke and prod to get those folks to move forward. And that's where we're at.
Questions, Dave?
Can you give them so much time, or you're gonna back out?
We've talked about that, actually.
Give them,
This village
give them
council,
the juice.
the chorus has been rising more on this village council, like, look, this is on our agenda every month.
Right.
This is a hassle, we're not sure it's worth it, and the longer this drags on, the more hesitance there is. If we get the appropriate, protection, then, I will recommend it, and the village will look it over seriously. But the ball's in their court at this point in time. I'm a little concerned about what the EPA whispers to me about that they have some kind of a consent decree with these people and it lasts only so long, and I'm concerned they're trying to run the clock out. To a point where the EPA won't have as much say over what they do or don't do. The EPA keeps telling me, well, we don't really have the authority to force anybody to do anything, and they may be right about that. So far, they seem to be pressing more on me than them, that's what I'll say. And, that's okay. We've told them there's two concerns, the financial cushion, and there's a small dispute over some proposals they presented about under what circumstances could they get emergency access to our system. And we said, we don't like what you've given us. Theoretically, if the system went down on Christmas Eve and we didn't get it fixed by Christmas Day, they could come in and tap into our system and have their people working on it without our knowledge or consent. We said that's not gonna happen. We all agree that if the financial cushion issue is addressed successfully, we think we'll negotiate something to deal with the access issues. That's doable. But the cushion right now is the holdup, and I've been expecting a document from them to suggest a proposal.
I'm gonna move on to new business. Furnace quote.
Okay, so we had some maintenance done on our furnace. Our furnace is almost 23 years old. In January, it'll be 23 years old. The original cost was just about $9,000 for it, and since 2012, we put, again, another $7,000 in repairs into it. So we keep putting Band-Aid upon Band-Aid. We got a quote from Curry Heating and Cooling, who was doing our maintenance on it, and another Band-Aid fix. There's currently cracks in the heat exchanger, which can lead to carbon monoxide in the building. He did say it's not dangerous levels, it's not, if I was sleeping here, he'd be more worried about it, but the fact that I'm in here with the doors open and shutting all day, he's not that worried about my health. But, so a fix for it would be $3,219. A whole new unit would be $10,941. I personally, it's already 23 years old, I say let's get a new one, but that's me. So I guess I need approval from council to either get it fixed or get a new one.
You've already put how much into it?
$7,124 since 2012.
Doesn't that say everything right there?
Well, I shall need approval. It's over the monetary, it's over the monetary amount that I can do myself, so.
I will make a motion, we go ahead with the replacement.
Okay.
I'll second it.
Because we're gonna keep dumping money into it, it's gonna keep eating.
That's my thought, but. Okay, so for that amount, should I do roll call, Mr. Denney? Roll call vote, Morris?
Aye.
Walker?
Aye.
Griswold?
Yes.
Suzy Clark? Aye. Spearing? Aye. Kinkade? Aye. Thank you.
That motion is good. Do you have any idea when we'll be starting on it?
I will let Bart know ASAP and hopefully before I have to run the heat too much.
Right, there are a couple nice days left, but it is.
Okay, moving on, biotech proposal.
Okay, so we got a quote from a company, one of the only companies around that does sludge judging for up in our lagoons. what that is, that measures the sludge in the bottom of the lagoons. Measures it, they have to do sampling to see if there's any kind of biohazards, anything like that, so, there's literally only a few companies around that does this type of work, and this company came recommended from Michigan World Water, and F&B has worked with them before in the past on other projects that they have.
Is that cheaper
Than what we had, yeah, it's cheaper than what we had originally estimated. I don't have what Rowan originally told us they thought it might cost, but, the project total just for the sludge judging and sampling, and doing all the proper permits with the state is $7,776.
And this is just to take samples and see where, evaluate the situation.
And to see the depth, and then if it's at a certain depth, then we can go ahead and get quotes on totally removing. But they have to find out what kind of chemicals, if any, biohazards, if any, that are in it, so they know if they were to have to
Where they can
remove
put
it,
it.
where they can put it, if they can land apply it, or if they have to hazmat disposal of it.
Have we ever had them cleaned before?
No, or judged. So, it's highly recommended that we do this,
Mhm.
so.
Is there like a time frame that this should be done, like every 10 years, or?
No, it all depends on your volume, your input. They don't really tell you. And we're hoping they can still come out this winter. Obviously, it's not as easy to do and, when it's covered with ice, but even when it starts getting cold, they can come out. If not, it would be first thing in the spring.
So we're looking for a motion to
Correct.
accept this.
I'll make another motion.
And I will do roll call again. Morris,
Aye.
Walker,
Aye.
Griswold,
Yes.
Suzy Clark, Spearing, Kinkade.
Adjourned. Move on, public time.
So it seems like if there is a lot of sludge in there, that would be what led to the absolutely horrific smell we all had at the end of last February, which no one here has addressed yet whatsoever. So it seems like, gosh, if we could hurry that up and find out what's gonna cause that and see if, dredging that out would fix it, that would be a really good thing. And, transparency would be great. If at some point, the fact that we all had to deal with that stench, and then you could say, here are the steps that we're gonna take to address it, that would be great, versus just being like, oh, I guess we'll do this now. That's just not transparent, that's not good government. Now, the water line extension, has it been 3.5 years now since that got approved? And we're still working on that?
6.
6? Okay. Well, gosh, that's a really, really long time. No, I thought it was 3.5 years ago that folks came on and were arguing for it, but maybe it was something else. Maybe I misremember. But again, it seems to me that since we have that time bomb right over there, and very much within distance to poison all of the wells here, all the way up and down. We don't even know what's going to happen with that groundwater. And it's already poisoned wells way up there. That's why we need the water line extension. Gosh, seems like we should price out getting, and maybe there's some way for these folks up there to have their money, the settling company's money, go to getting hooked up with the Great Lakes Water Authority. It is not Detroit Water. Mr. Denney calls it Detroit Water. It's the Great Lakes Water Authority. That's who serves Lapeer, Elmont, Imlay City. It seems like time to do that because, again, that's a time bomb, and it could, just like that site in Ann Arbor I've described, that is 1 mile by 4 miles, that no one is allowed to drill a well there, and they all have to be on municipal water. That's very much what could happen here because this is a worse site. This is already on the EPA Superfund site, that one isn't. So, seems like it would be better to think a whole lot more forward than all these little arguments and patching and trying to get some water up there when our water system sounds to be in a really bad shape. And guess what? Great Lakes Water Authority water is so much better than the water we have here. And it won't ruin your appliances all the time. And by February, I had already spent 2 weekends with my landlord in my house fixing things that were ruined by the mineral content in our water. I lost 2 weekends of work because of that. And how much plumbing and all the appliances we get ruined here all the time. It'd be better just to switch to water. And Andrew Darian at the township told me a figure of $1 million to get hooked up to that. I don't know if that's true or not, but that seems like a much better long-term plan. And or maybe we need a different lawyer situation for that. I don't know. I've had that suggested to me several times. I did not have time to finish it, but I am working on a very detailed complaint about the 2024 Country Days and Balloon Festival, because that was just horrible, as I detailed last time. But I will be passing that on to you very soon. It's already taken me hours just to go through it because it was just unacceptable. And the comments are on Facebook to prove it, and it should never be allowed to happen again. And again, that is exactly why we need a fire marshal around here, because things happen around here that aren't allowed in other places. And this argument that, well, we haven't had a claim yet, and nobody's been killed yet, I guess, that's an immoral standard. We owe people more than that here. It should be trying to prevent harm. We've been lucky. We've been very lucky. And I was just last night watching the footage from my dash cam of driving by the event on Saturday night when no one was out there directing traffic, and there were vehicles coming out, and there were all these hordes of people trying to walk up and down the sidewalk. And that's what people detailed on Facebook, and that is just unacceptable. Everyone should be planning better than that. And I think there's this kind of weird notion that because a bunch of firefighters and police officers are up there and they're kind of part of the event, that makes it safe. That is absolutely not true. Not true whatsoever. And in fact, those folks tend to be a little more lax when on casual time. So the Planning Commission, I get that they've had nothing on the agenda. They could be going through their standards. They could be making sure things are relevant. They could be seeing what things need to be updated. And they could be learning from articles on MTA, on the MML website, all those types of things, instead of wasting time, frankly. It'd be one thing if they just talked about campers after they did work, right? I've never heard so much about campers in my life, but they could be doing something to make things better around here. And I had one say that just he's not going to learn anything. He just flat out refusal, and I think that is just the wrong way to be. And I think they should be going out into the community and going to other planning commission meetings and learning from those as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment?
I'd like to just address the contamination issue. I have looked at the contamination maps, and they have tracked, the EPA has tracked this for many, many decades. Contamination is running that way.
I have talked to multiple experts in groundwater, and they say there is absolutely no way to predict it. And you should talk to one of them before you make any kind of decision that way.
Okay, no other public time, then.
How come you got two public times?
This is the second public time.
He asked how come we have two.
So why do we have two?
We do one before agenda items and one after agenda items to give the public a chance to speak
So
on
you
agenda
get the
items.
same thing every time?
With some, yes, but that's why we do it, is to give a chance to speak about agenda
And we
items
give them
before.
3 minutes.
And that's why the Fire Foundation wrote you a letter.
All right,
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
do you have a second? We have a motion and a support to adjourn, all in favor, say aye.
Thank you, council.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ferris. Everyone enjoy the rest of the beautiful day.
Thank you too.
And if anybody has not seen it yet, they keep around the building, there's a new flag on a nice pole.